colleges in New York, and not Juilliard, not any of the main performance like the performance only schools like Juilliard or the Actors Studio and things like that, but like hybrid schools like Marymount, NYU, Fordham, things like that.
Sure.
You know, I heard like the stories of like, well, I was told like Marymount was like, you can audition and you can book a job and you can get work and it's fine. And then you can take a hiatus from school and then you can come back when you're done. And I had friends who had booked jobs and like teachers were like, about it at all the schools, including my own. I love Marymount. But then I realized, I'm like, well, I'm an acting, like I'm a communication arts major and I'm told every day I should do an internship. So and that was my aha moment. It was like, I'm in school as a communication arts major. I'm told to do an internship. I'm told to do, meet different people and start interviewing and getting used to the business industry. Yet actors weren't being able to audition while they were in college. And then by the time that they graduated, or doing a showcase, by the time you're doing a showcase, let's say you're 21. By the time you start auditioning, there are people in the audition room who are like 17 who've already been doing it for 3 or 4 years. So like there's a huge gap between like your ability to do so because a lot of people don't always go the college route to hone your craft, so to speak. So my aha moment was that, that's why I wanted to understand the business. So getting into the business of acting was very much like I wanted to get work for myself, and I've always gotten work for myself. I have representation, and I've had representation. But I was very adamant about, like, understanding all the different roles of the people in the industry, understanding who are the gatekeepers, understanding, who are the right people that have the jobs, who are the right people that can get me the jobs and things like that. The business of acting to me has shifted. I mean, now there's a lot more education about it because the entertainment industry has completely changed. Since the writer's strike, like X many years ago, like the entertainment industry has completely changed, especially with the rise and fall of all the social media stars, because people were booking that, because that you can't buy that PR, or at the time you couldn't. And, the business of acting is very much about, it's a business. Are you doing this? I understand that you're doing this because it makes you feel good, but are you doing this because like you want to live your life and this is the career that you want? Like, is this, and how are you going to make money and how are you going to save? I mean, I'm lucky that I'm part of the union. A lot of actors aren't. A lot of actors think that like you become part of the union and then you act professionally. There's so much ambiguity that, understanding the business end of it is a huge recommendation I have for anybody. And even if you're not an actor, if you're a musician, if you're a dancer, if you're a painter, find something that's about arts management or arts in business, because it'll help you be a better representative of yourself and find people to better represent you who are on the same level of you and understand your non-negotiables. And that was a really hard lesson to learn with me.
So with that, you mentioned your business of acting coach that you work with, but are there resources online or books that you have come across that you feel explain this better than others?
Definitely. Valerie Hubbard, who's my coach, she has a book on the acting business, which is really great. I also recommend a book by James Calleri from Calleri Casting. He has a book about the acting business that let me just think of the name for a second. It's like Acting Professionally. Yeah, it's called Acting Professionally, Rough Facts About Careers in Acting, and it literally changed my life. It's a little outdated, but I believe they update it every so often. But it's a wonderful book that pretty much maps out all the odds and ends of like what you need. That's a huge resource for me. And then, regular business books. Like I love Harvard Business Review has a great book on strategic marketing, and that's a great tool to have because, if you can identify, let's take just the acting element of it, because as a film producer, I deal with a lot of other people, but, and the acting element, like you have to consider, like, well, who do you make your sales calls to? Do you know what a sales call is as an actor? Who are the people you follow up with? Who are the potential clients for you? Like like you could put casting directors in this category. You can put like your like agents in this category. And so finding different strategic marketing strategies and strategic marketing books are great. Any social media marketing book, especially right now. And not to be a coach. I think that I know a lot of people want to when they go on Instagram now or they go on social media, they try to be like present themselves like some of the like the coaches they're influenced by. Like maybe they'll put some quotes and do some like tips and things, which I like and I'll sometimes do. But like you need to really identify who your competition is and how they're marketing themselves and how they're becoming successful, and see how you can do it for yourself. And that's why I recommend like look at different business books that like I said, like social media definitely, and strategic marketing. The Harvard Business book I'm a huge fan of. I'm looking at it right now. So, oh yeah, and Gary Vee's new book Crushing It is awesome. So.
Okay, well, sure. So what is some? I know you've kind of covered this. So, but what is some really bad advice that you see be given to or hear being given out to new actors and actresses about starting their careers and the business side of their careers?
Oh man, just a few. I have to only give you a few. Oh man, if I listen to everything everyone told me, I think the biggest thing that I hate more than anything, the advice that I've gotten, is that no, you can't do that. It's not allowed. And that's been with so many things. Like, no, you can't reach out to casting directors. No, you can't send thank you. No, you can't do it unless I tell you. And I'm like, no, another advice that I hear nowadays that is very archaic is you need representation to be successful. These are things that I realized very early on, but they're things that I still hear people say. So like you have to get representation. Like people will, without a career, without any experience, maybe like a couple classes, they'll go find representation. And I say to them, like, this is one of the biggest things that I had, because I used to give like a questionnaire every time I had a consult with somebody. They wanted me to coach them. And I said, you think, like, the first question I said, like, was, I know, like, answer this statement. I know that I would have a successful career in acting if I had blank. And whatever their answer was, we work on it. And more often than not, it was representation. You don't need representation first, because put it this way. If you were, let's say, a job prospect at even, we'll say, Starbucks, right? And why would you apply for a management role if you've never worked as a barista before, or if you've never worked in sales before? You want to start at a certain level, so be pragmatic. If you want somebody to represent you, they need something to represent. If you want, you wouldn't walk into, people, I think, look at they look at agents and managers like they look like lawyers. Like, I find this person to help me. When they're not. They're looking people to fulfill in their roster, and you help them, always be a good booker, so to speak. So you want something to show them. You want to show that you're a good fit. And at the end of the day, these people are there to help you get jobs, but they don't have jobs without actors. And I'm not trying to be cruel. I've had some great representation. I have great representation right now. But, I found my agent at, who's also a manager. I found him at like a meetup. I asked him all the questions. I asked him what he looked for. I asked him what he wanted. And I met up with him, and we kind of, had a meet and greet together to see if we were a good fit. And then we've been a good fit. I've worked with him for several years now, but it took a while to get there. But I also learned how to find my self-work, how to put myself out there, because the more that I knew how to push myself, the better candidate I was for him. And he would see how dedicated I am to my career. And that's why he would be so excited to push me as well. So I think, go find work without representation. If you don't know where to find acting jobs, then then what are you doing? Because, research how people are getting work and find it. So I think that the first thing would be, like, you don't need representation to find work. That's the first advice. Sorry, I have a huge rant about that.
No,
the second thing to me, that I hear a lot, is that, well, I have to keep taking, like, the idea that you keep paying for classes to meet people, but you don't audition. I don't know who got that advice or if it is even advice, but I know so many people who are just like professional acting class takers, and they think that they're going to get the job out of that. You know, you have to also do, like, pretend you're a scientist. You go to study and study and study, and then you do a proof of concept. Your proof of concept is your audition. You know, like, don't be afraid to take a risk. And if you're not ready to take a risk, find out what structures you need to put there to take that risk. And I think that also a lot of the bad advice comes from really bad acting coaches. I've realized there are some amazing acting coaches. I mean, living in a city as you do, Boston's a great city as well. But like Boston, New York, Chicago, and Atlanta now specifically, because Atlanta's just very new in this industry. In LA, there's a lot of swindlers, unfortunately, like any industry, and they like to talk a lot. What ends up happening is you start just, if you're in an acting class and you've been paying for coaching for so long with the same teacher, and you don't get called up at least like every other time you're in class or every other time you're in, your coaching session, maybe it's time to look for someone else. Like, don't wait for people to give you permission to perform. Because if you kept waiting for someone to tell you could do something, you'll never do it for yourself. I'm trying to think of any more, but those are pretty much my two pet peeves. Oh yeah, and my last one is joining the union. It means you're a professional actor. It's not. There's more non-union work than union work, and there's more work happening. And then also you have to move to LA to get acting work. LA has a certain amount of jobs and type of jobs. The East Coast as a whole has a bunch of different kinds of acting jobs. Find out what works for you and what you want to do, and then find out what city has it.
Okay, sure. So you've mentioned a couple times about the idea of creating your own work, not asking for permission. So it seems like in your career so far, you've had to jump from, let's say, the business side to the creative side, which a lot of people find very fearful. So how do you, in creating your opportunities, how do you push past those times when you're fearful?
I think that's such a deep question. Fear, there's two types of fear that I struggle with. And it's the fear of failing. Obviously, we all have those moments, and that I struggle with in my business. And then it's the fear of success, which I struggle in my acting career. And it's interesting that juxtaposition, because, and I push myself because I look back on all the stuff that I've done and what I've accomplished and where I want to be, and I celebrate those small victories, and I celebrate gratitude. And in those moments of fear, I take risks. Like, I'm in this great theater company now, called Theater 68 that I've been in since, December of last year. And what I love about it is every Monday it's a reason to perform, even if you have nothing. Like, you can perform every week if you want to. And I think that, the great thing about that is when I get really stressed and I get really upset sometimes, I tend to hide myself, or I deal with the guilt factor and the likability factor. So, like, for instance, if I don't feel like I did enough work for Starbaby, sometimes I get into this, like, guilt mode. Like, I can't have fun, I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I shouldn't do this because I didn't do this much work today. When in reality, it's like, you know what? It's okay to not do everything every day. And you have to sometimes throw yourself out there and, like, push yourself on a risk and then celebrate how you survived that. I went up last night we were doing a workshop before we got into some scene study. And I was feeling really vulnerable, and I decided to just go up there. So I think that I use my fear and whatever causes that fear to kind of be my launch pad. And not a lot of people are like that. So I'm aware that I'm unique in that sense, and I'm very appreciative that I have that. But I think that we spend so much of our time worried about what other people will think, or worried about, doing the right thing, that we tend to forget why we do it and why you are significant and why you are important. And I think that's how I push through the fear, is that, I'm meant to do this. And what I do is I do something that I do like a small victory something every time I